Hello everyone, welcome to the Cave Boys. We've been gone a while, haven't we, boys?
We have.
Yeah, a good week or two. Me and Adam, we fumbled the bag a little bit while Johnny was on his holiday. Anyway.
Yeah, so actually, we haven't actually spoke about this, have we, boys? I said, boys, I'm going to be away for 1 week. I'm on holiday for the first time in a while. If you want to, please feel free to talk about something. You boys actually had something that you wanted to talk about as well.
We did actually have an idea and a recording day in place, but things kind of happened. I think that idea might still come up, though. It's in the bank.
Yeah, I was going to say, because I left the boys with the channel and came back to a surprisingly quiet channel where nothing had happened. Yes, I think it's only right that we have the Triforce, the three of us, together.
Indeed, yeah.
It's said that if any one of us is missing, it will throw the world into chaos and balance will need restoring. So it's probably best, for the sake of the universe. If anything, the audience at home, you're welcome that we didn't bring you another video. You're very welcome.
So we're coming back to you with a bang. Because, as usual, we're being very optimistic today, very happy. What's
Very
Zelda
happy
missing?
indeed.
How shit is Zelda?
The big question, what is Zelda missing? I think we all know the answer that everyone immediately jumps to is tanks, of course.
Oh, yes, tanks.
I was thinking jiggle physics. What were you boys thinking? I think we have different perspectives here.
Tanks or jizzle? That could be... That could be a debate for another day. Some say jiggle physics creates the jizzle physics, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, we are already completely derailing the conversation. But before we get into today's conversation, Eddie boy, it's time that we shout out our wonderful members, of course.
Of course.
Ed, of course, has the list of members already ready to go and is about to thank all of you right away. Take it away, Eddie. I'm setting him up a bit.
He's forgot the members.
He's fumbled the bag.
Guys, I had a video that did well, alright? I've not been looking at the Cave Boys channel.
He does one Twilight Princess video and it all goes to his head, and all of a sudden, King Midas over here is too busy touching things, turning them into gold. He's forgotten about the members.
Right, so I have the members list right here. We can edit that in, right, Johnny?
I'll edit all of that out, make you look super smooth as if you didn't forget. Go on.
Cheers. Thanks, mate. So, thank you to Scoob. Thank you to Tristan YouTube Arts. Thank you to Legend of Mads. Sounds like a spin-off series. Thank you to Sheikah Cake. We're not asking them about the Gyat today.
It's the best kind of cake.
Thank you to Xenodorf. Thank you to a fan of Zelda. Aren't we all? Thank you to Snow Elf, who I've noticed in my comment section as well now. And
excellent enjoyer. Very cultured. Very cultured indeed.
And thank you to Keitala the Great, the first of many.
The one and only, yes.
Thank you as always.
The first of her name. And I believe, is she a farmer? Am I right in saying that?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes.
I believe so.
Very talented.
Farmer.
She even makes farming vlogs.
Incredibly based activities. We like that. Yeah, so thank you to each and every one of you. And now, back to the regular scheduled program. Ed, we're asking the big question, aren't we?
Yes. What is Zelda missing? Now, me personally, I don't know how you boys have gone about this. I've looked at other games that I'm really fond of, and I've gone, right, what do those games do that could be in a Zelda game, theoretically?
You mean to tell me that you enjoy games that aren't Zelda?
There's at least 3 of them. Have you boys, at all, in any capacity, have you guys played Resident Evil at all?
Indeed.
I can't say I have, no.
You have
I've played some of the older ones. I've played the older ones when the camera angles were still a little frustrating, so to say.
What I want is the camera angle. No, I'm joking. What I want is, it's hard to describe, but people in the audience who have played these games, they'll know what I mean. There's this idea, the Nemesis system. Have you guys heard the Nemesis system in other games? It's like where it's not one-to-one this, but this is what Resident Evil uses. It has this massive hulking figure that will follow you around certain areas a decent amount of time, probably an hour of your playthrough. The AI, it will notice when you're around an area, and it will walk over to that area by itself. It won't rubber band and just fling them over to where you are. But the main point is, I love the tension that comes with that. I like the idea of something like a spider or something weird in a Zelda dungeon that's following you around for a lot of the time, and maybe you can stun it with combat or something. because it's a Zelda game.
I think I kind of get what you mean. Is this similar to how in like this is such a wild example, but like how in Five Nights at Freddy's, they're just like actively moving where you're sort of looking and not looking, like that sort of system?
Yeah, that sort of system. So I get if you're like walking around, let's say it's a shadow temple. I think I've used this example in an old video of mine. Imagine you're walking through like a shadow temple, right? But instead of the tension being in just the atmosphere, something's chasing you, like a thing is chasing you around.
Or maybe like, you know, Hyrule Field at nighttime.
Yeah, Hyrule Field at nighttime. Like if a ghost horse with a dark knot on it, like a really, really strong dark knot on it.
Yeah, or like the giant Stalfos in Ocarina of Time, remember those? Yeah. If you just had like one of those anywhere in the field at all times.
And it's tracking where you are and everything.
I tell you what though, you know, although I deeply appreciate both of your boys' severely autistic, very specific takes.
Yeah.
Basically, if I may translate for the people at home, what the boys are basically asking for is essentially a bit more horror in Zelda. Obviously, we've had. I'm going to mention the word, boys, and here it goes.
Oh no.
Twilight Princess.
There it is.
Now that does have it does have moody and at times. I mean, I guess you could certainly describe certain elements of the game as horror.
For sure.
But there hasn't been any. Yeah, there certainly hasn't been any Resident Evil sort of level of horror.
Yeah.
In the because I mean it typically is a bit more of a family game, but
of course.
I certainly agree with the idea that some genuine. You know,
even if it's just
style.
like just tension. It doesn't even have to be all that horror. If it's like a goofy enemy who's chasing you. It'd be nice for a bit of tension. I think it does work really well in a dungeon setting as well. I mean, Resident Evil is basically, like, a lot of those games are basically just walking around to, you know, like, put certain things into other things.
Specific.
I think it would work well in a dungeon, but it depends how open those dungeons are in exploring. I think it would have worked well in Tears of the Kingdom's dungeons. Because they're very open in the way that you explore them.
It would have added a little something to the actual dungeons. Because I think it's a fair opinion to say that the dungeons themselves are a little bit lacking in just stuff. They're a bit easy. The bosses are cool. The build-ups are cool. The themes are cool. But the actual dungeons themselves didn't really have much going on, in my opinion. And what you're talking about would have definitely made them 10 times better.
Just a bit of tension. I think tension's a good thing. It's like, you know, when you're in the sky and you're fighting an enemy, you have that little bit of tension in the back of your mind that if you get hit off of your platform, you're going to go barreling down to the surface. It's a nice level of tension to have.
And it's not just Zelda, to be honest, that's missing this. I think a lot of modern gaming, in quotation marks, is missing this. And it's sort of, it's dynamic range when it comes to, not lighting, as that's what it usually refers to, dynamic range when it comes to emotions within a game. If you go back to the older Zelda games, and I know that I always draw parallels between Zelda and Final Fantasy. Yeah. It's one, because I like both of those franchises, but two, it's another franchise that's big enough that enough people will understand the reference if I make it, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? So if you go and play, like, for example, if you play Final Fantasy 1 through 6, you'll find that there's a surprising sense of humour in those games. It doesn't take itself quite as seriously, and I think Zelda's gone down a bit of a similar route where it's kind of lost its sense of humour a bit, in the same way that Zelda maybe needs to push itself, you know, further. You know, if you've got like the skill tree, it needs to go further down the horror route, but I also at the same time think it needs to go down the complete polar opposite of that, and it needs to find its sense of humour a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a market for both. I think
that one goes with the other. If you want a game that has everything, those are the hardest games to write. Is having a bit of everything. Because if you want to write a dark game, it's very easy to write a dark game. You make it very moody. You make it very sad. Yes. You know, if you want like a Wind Waker style game, you just make it super saturated, super happy. You know, nothing too deep, and then you've got your fluffy game. But you know, you could argue that some of the best pieces of media or art are something that managed to encapsulate the whole spectrum, because that is what it is to be human. It's, you know, it's every experience that makes life what it is. It's not ignoring any one aspect of it. Obviously, that makes it incredibly difficult to write. But I think that do you guys get what I mean by some of the newer games have a slight, it has a more narrow focus when it comes to like the emotion side of Zelda.
I think you're right that is most apparent in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom.
100%.
Like it's lost in those games. But you're definitely right. It is around Wind Waker where that feeling sort of dropped off. And like you said, Twilight Princess, that's understandable. But it definitely needs a bit of a return to that. It definitely adds a lot more dynamic to the game.
It's interesting as well because it's a very similar talk again to round this point back off to Resident Evil. Resident Evil is like a lot of the best moments in Resident Evil are cheesy as hell. Like really, really cheesy. Like Resident Evil 4 and Leon jumping out of a window and like Chris Redfield breaks a boulder in Resident Evil 5 or something. But then by Resident Evil 6, it was taking itself uber seriously, which meant that people didn't like that game. So then with the newer games now, they're actually really trying to incorporate horror with like cheesy lines that the protagonist says. It's the exact same situation, except Resident Evil is like, it's regressed and then come back to its former self.
In an attempt to play it safe, maybe, or to simply conform to the zeitgeist of gaming. Yeah, a lot of games, Zelda included, isn't quite maybe taking the risks or pushing the boat out when it comes to the spectrum of emotion that it shows. Yeah, and that often leads to a game taking itself a little bit too seriously, being a little bit too rigid, a bit too scared to sort of step out of the box. I'd agree with Adams. Since Wind Waker, Zelda's got more and more predictable in a way.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like, even the entire story of Tears of the Kingdom, right? You must remember the Ganondorf cutscene. He's smiling. They took that scene completely seriously, but his smile looks stupid.
One of many examples.
This kind of segues to the thing I was going to bring up about what Zelda's missing.
Yep.
Okay.
And what I was going to say is, I think it's not necessarily something it's had in the past to an extreme, but something I think it's missing that could benefit the series, and it's because you mentioned Tears of the Kingdom, is I think they need to have some story plot twists that will upset people, to be honest. I think a lot of the time, you said, it's too predictable. And the point I want to reference specifically is in Tears of the Kingdom, it is very, very well stated that if Zelda becomes a dragon, spoilers alert, irreversible. End of the game, what happens? She's back. I get it. It's like, oh, cool, like fun ending, she's back. But I think they're a little bit afraid to just upset people with the story. I think they're too nice with it sometimes. And I think that's something the series needs. It needs things to happen that won't necessarily go down well. It's a Zelda game. Nothing's going to go down perfectly anyway, but I think they need to have that in stories. Do stuff that people don't see coming at all. Have a character maybe go missing or die or go into an irreversible state. Add that to the game. That would be so cool. At least I think so.
I mean, I've gotten a lot of flack for this in the past, and I think I've mentioned it in a Zelda video before. The king, the Zora king. A lot of people thought he was going to end up dying after like trailers and stuff, just because Sidon's wearing the crown for the Zora and whatever. Mm-hmm. He doesn't end up dying. He just goes on he just retires. The king just retires.
Yeah, hangs up his soggy crown and just says, I'm too fat for this.
Don't get me wrong.
And by the way, wasn't it King Zora? Didn't he do like the thing that like cats, when cats die and this cats kind of like, apparently they know when they're about to die and they start running away?
Yeah, they go
like, that's kind of what he did. He was just like, I'm just going to go chill under a random waterfall and just and everyone's like, where's the king? Where's the king gone? And he's just like chilling. And he comes back and he's like, I'm back, but I'm not going to do my job though.
That's kind of what I mean.
What's wrong with this guy?
Yeah. I was going to say, but that's what I mean. Like, wouldn't the story be a lot more cool if there was an actual story to that? Not just he's hiding behind a waterfall. Like, oh my god, he did die. Something happened. Let's find out the story.
And then maybe like you find his skeleton.
Exactly.
Like,
or like you have to track down different clues to go and find what happened, and then you come across his skeleton or something. Maybe in a cave behind a waterfall. He got into battle with some sort of boss that now you need to fight. Like that would be so much more cool than. Yeah, he's hiding behind the waterfall.
Don't get me wrong, I'm not out here looking for Zelda characters to die. And like, don't get me wrong, Breath of the Wild did a pretty decent job with that. Like, I know we didn't know the champions, but they did all die. Like, fine.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's like a lot of, and this isn't just exclusive to gaming. This is all kinds of media. Yeah. Everything is, it's far too afraid to offend and to redefine. I mean, do you guys remember when the first season of Game of Thrones aired? Everyone was literally mind blown by the fact that main characters die. That was the one thing everyone said about Game of Thrones is like, oh my god, you never know who's gonna die. And that's the thing. It's like, this is how handholdy everything's been recently. That one TV show can come out and the one thing is people die in it, and it's like, even, I mean. That's what I mean. Everything is, and that's very much, like I say, that's not just exclusive to Game of Thrones. That's very much the zeitgeist of today. Everyone is too afraid. Making money is so important. They're not willing to take risks. That's basically that's the be all end all of entertainment right now. Is
it's the reason why Iron Man dying is a huge thing. It's like why it's a cultural shock that Iron Man died when it happened in Endgame. It's
exactly.
Crazy.
And the thing is, that affects the way you approach the creative process. Like Adam, what you were asking for, and Ed, what you were asking for. Yeah. That comes at the that comes at the inception of a game. That comes from when they're sat around thinking, okay, what do we want to do? If you want a bit more horror, if you want more plot twists, like Adam said, these are the kind of things that come from the writing room. And when you're there, you have to be thinking. You don't what I imagine they're thinking these days is right, what are most people going to enjoy? And although yes, you're going to come out with quite a popular product, you're going to end up developing quite a sanitized, safe product. Your hardcore fans are they're eventually going to get sick of that, but from the inception there needs to be a complete shift in attitude from what will most people enjoy to what can we try, what haven't we done before, what can we try and pioneer, that sort of thing. We need new ideas, not safe ideas, basically. And that plays into everything that we've said, because I'd like a bit more comedy, Ed would like a bit more horror, and Adam would like more plot twists, and all of those, like I say, come from the very the very germination of the game, the very start. So it comes from a change in mindset. On a completely different side note, on the point of everything becoming a bit too sanitized, a bit too predictable, it's got me worried about Persona 6, if I'm honest. Because Atlas certainly back in the 2010s, Atlas was the biggest supplier of weird and different.
Catherine, man. Catherine.
Yeah, exactly. I fear that they might be going the same way as everyone else these days. But like I say, we'll find out with Persona 6. But I think that's a pretty good place to leave the video off, actually.
I think we've done a brilliant job there.
Yeah, what we've decided is that we all want different things, but they all come from the same
place. It's like a place of love. We want to just have a load of weird stuff happen, even if we don't get the thing that we want the first time. As long as somebody else wanted it, I'm good with
just
that.
Try new things,
but don't make walking a gameplay mechanic like Death Stranding did. Don't do that. Don't go full Kojima, please. Yeah,
we have had delivery mechanics in obviously Skyward Sword kicks off as a cat delivery man, but I think we all want very different things, but they all come from the same place, and that is behind the scenes when they're thinking about what to do. Don't think about what everyone wants. Think about what you want to make, and that thing being a little bit different from the last thing. It's as simple as that, I think.
I think as well, the other thing to take here is that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have come out. They've sold ridiculously well. They've made a ton of new fans. Why don't those fans want something new as well?
Introduce them. Yeah, exactly. Introduce them to something new.
If you want to keep those fans.
It's for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's actually a really nice conversation where I feel like we're breaking not crazy new ground, but I also feel like we're not offending people here.
Well, yes, that brings us on to you guys at home. Let us know what you think is, Zelda is missing, or, what ideas you might have when it comes to the next game, because that's really what we're talking about, isn't it, boys? When we ask ourselves what is Zelda missing, those are the things we'd like to. I mean, you've really got me. I'm really quite sold on the idea of a more horror Zelda. That would be. That'd be real cool. But we'll see what they do. I'm not overly optimistic, but I mean, Nintendo, they can surprise sometimes.
Hopefully they saw the Tears of the Kingdom, do you remember the Tears of the Kingdom teaser? And everyone went crazy for how scary it looked almost.
Yeah, everyone thought that was meaning darker tone Zelda, and then it kind of turned out to just be the same tone as Breath of the Wild.
Yeah,
exactly.
Pretty much, yeah.
People love the idea of a darker Zelda, and hopefully they saw that in all of the build-up to
I hope so.
The second trailer.
Yeah. And then, so what would you say most Zelda players, in between Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, what game would you say most Zelda players played? What other game that wasn't Zelda? Because I'd say Elden Ring.
Red Dead or Elden Ring. One of those.
Red Dead or Elden
2
Ring.
or Elden
Yeah.
Ring.
Yeah, I think Red Dead
Both
2.
of them. I mean, Red Dead, incredibly gritty.
Yeah.
Elden Ring, incredibly dark.
Gritty.
Very gothic. People like dark. So yes, we've somehow come full circle. This is the same thing people were asking back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, true.
And this is when they got Wind Waker, by the way. So we could get
the cycle repeats itself.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Let us know what you think Zelda is missing down below. Ed will be sure to read them. Me and Adam will completely ignore you, as always. Yes, we'll see you in the next video. Thank you for joining us once again.
Thank you.
In the cave. Goodbye,
We hope you enjoyed.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Yes,
Bye.
goodbye.
Bye.
Maybe what what Zelda is missing is friendship. Maybe that's what it is.
Nah, we don't have any of that, mate.